Hi, welcome to Maxim's Inside Track. Johnny Hallow and I have just been over to Gulf Food in Dubai for 4 days and got some very interesting insights into the dairy industry. We've seen that most recent GDT come off slightly. There's a whole lot of environmental and macroeconomic factors at play at the moment, which is causing some volatility and some shocks through the market, in particular coronavirus out of China and talk of a North Island, New Zealand drought. So both of these things are offsetting each other, fortunately, in particular on whole milk powder, but it's an interesting dynamic at the moment. I'll start with skim milk powder. That's off slightly and showing some weakness, off quite solid numbers, so just starting to drift off. I think that there's quite short pipelines and there's not a lot of inventory in warehousing around the world, so we think that demand is there, but buyers are just waiting for a buying opportunity, and at these levels, just coming off these peaks, we may see demand come back into the market. It feels reasonably balanced. European milk looking like a reasonable start to their season. They're sort of talking about being on par or just slightly ahead of last year. So yeah, skim milk powder we suspect is still reasonably solid at these numbers for the coming little while. Moving on to full cream milk powder now. Once again, as I commented, that North Island starting to dry off. So if that continues for the next sort of 10 to 12 days, we could see a dramatic reduction in that region, which could be difficult to read, anything from about 20 to 60,000 tonne of product. And obviously that with demand out of China being okay, the GDT only came off slightly, and I think it was predicted, or there was talk in Dubai around that potentially coming off anything up to 10%. So we think that's a pretty good number at the moment. People have still got to eat. It's just a matter of how that product finds its way to the correct channels. So yeah, we're sort of, a lot of it will hinge on China demand, and there's a lot of talk around the containers being backlogged into these ports. There's even talk of reefer shipping containers being plugged in out at sea with on vessels. So this could impact freight rates, availability of containers, etc. So there's a little bit to play out here, but for the moment it still feels relatively balanced on whole milk powder. Onto the fats now, butter and AMF. These are starting to come under a little bit of pressure. European prices have started to drift off down towards that sort of Euro 3,500, 3,550 type mark. And then the CME in the US starting to drift off as well. So that's reflected in the GDT results, which have come off a little bit. New Zealand in particular doesn't seem to have oodles of fat to place, so it'll be interesting just to see how this European pricing sort of pans out, but we feel as though this fat category may be softening a little bit. However, we don't see it declining dramatically. Moving on to cheddar or cheese category now. A very solid result on the GDT, up 5+%, and heavy demand out of Southeast Asia in particular. Whether that's a New Zealand origin thing or not, there seems to be product available, in particular out of Europe. German production is up significantly, 5+%, so there's certainly EU product around. Still some difference between block and barrel out of the US. It's just looking for a bit of direction, I think, whether barrels come up and blocks come down, or that they'll need to meet somewhere or close that gap a little bit. But yeah, it feels reasonably buoyant. Australia, New Zealand origin cheeses in particular, anything with 12 months of age, still challenging to source and very firmly priced. On to whey and lactose now, reasonably balanced. Yeah, whey sort of tracking sideways and lactose as well. Still that difference in pricing from standardising quality lactose through to infant grade. That can be up to $200-300 US a tonne variants and even higher in some instances. There is product available. No doubt the New Zealand manufacturers will be looking for significant volumes for standardising coming through our winter period and then into spring again. That concludes our Maxxum Inside Track. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.